All right, peace and blessings, everybody. It's July the 22nd, the year 2017. This letter was originally written by Schaeffer to someone who asked him a question about where are your supporters, and he titled it Narco Pervs. It was not originally written for the public. I asked Schaeffer if I could publish it. He told me to modify a few things to protect some friends of his that are identified and some family, right? And so I did modify the parts that I was told to modify, and I am making this public. I think it's important for everybody to hear. So here we go. Narco Pervs, where are Schaeffer's supporters? Schaeffer writes, if they could take down a squeaky clean Boy Scout like me, nobody is safe. You really need to understand the criminal environment in Alaska that gives rise to this mafia situation. First of all, Alaska is absolutely remote. There is one 2,000-mile long dirt road into Alaska. Very little comes in on that road, and what does gets checked twice by Canada. Everything else must come in through the airports or seaports that the drug cops fully control. So that means drugs are hard for non-law enforcement people to get into the state, which means the price is 3 times the normal price you'd pay in the lower 48. Then on top of that, everyone in Alaska is super wealthy, so they can pay the high prices. You have all the oil workers, the miners, the fishermen, and the construction contractors for remote military projects. They are all single guys who work 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. When they come to town for their 2 weeks off, they want to buy drugs and party. Then they go back out, and they all get paid several thousand a week. There are only 2 towns in Alaska, Anchorage and Fairbanks. The rest is just empty wilderness that is accessible only by helicopter or bush plane. There aren't any roads. So you have 2 towns with one way in or out, full of super rich working single guys who will pay any price for drugs. It is probably the best retail market for drugs in the world. The drug task force brings in and sells everything but the weed. Weed is grown locally by thousands of people. They bust their competitors, not their customers or distributors. This is a multi-billion-dollar industry that is surpassed only by oil and gas. It beats all mining, fishing, and construction by a long shot. So they have a large stake in protecting their lucrative racket. But how do a bunch of cocky alpha male drug cops get a bunch of slimy, envious, nerd bureaucrats to not snitch them out? They need a certain type that they know they can control. The pathetic perv who wants to feel powerful so bad that he will sexually abuse a child just to see the kid tremble in fear. Rural Alaska is dotted with native villages full of drunk Eskimos who don't seem to notice too much if the state takes a child away from them. This made Alaska a ripe target for child molesters. The Catholic Church was sending their incurable kid diddler priest to Alaska to get rid of them. It was systematic, and the pervs were going hog wild here, sexually abusing hundreds of native kids from broken homes that had become wards of the state. The church got in big trouble when the kids grew up and started telling. People went to prison, huge civil settlements were paid, and the church was forced to clean house. But it wasn't just the Catholic Church in on it. It was pervs within the government bureaucracies too. But the government pervs were able to stop the accountability epidemic from spreading to them. So stopping the church from molesting kids just meant more kids for the government bureaucrats to molest. The whole child sex abuse makes no sense to a normal, healthy man like you or me who is attracted to smoking hot women. But it's not about an erotic attraction for these pervs. They aren't drawn to a prepubescent child the way a man is drawn to a beautiful woman. For these pervs, it's about getting a feeling power relative to the kid they are sexually abusing. The perv is getting off on their own feeling of power, not the kid. The kid they are abusing is just a weak victim to facilitate the dark ritual of self-worship and reveling in one's own power. This is pretty sick, right? Well, the same personality type that gets off on being a government bureaucrat and feeling powerful over the people they fine and boss around is the same personality type that gets off on sexually dominating a helpless child. It's Baphomet, and it's in every culture as far back as we have records. If you want to control a meth whore, just feed her meth habit. As long as you are her source of dope, she will do anything you tell her to do. And if she gives you any trouble, just cut her dope off for a few days, and she will come crawling back saying she's sorry. It works the same way with chomo bureaucrats, who are addicted to molesting helpless kids. If you supply them with pets to play with, you have full control of them. They are as easy to control as a meth whore. Actually, probably easier, since they talk back less. And child molesters have zero self-respect to begin with, so a little bullying puts them right in their place. Now think about how cops turn people into informants. They just dress like a dope dealer, go sell the addict some drugs, then flash their badge and tell them they can either go to prison for decades or work as an informant. The drug addict always says agrees to work for the cops. Now the cop who just rolled them is their new handler. The drug cops just run the same play on child molesters and then boss around the chomos whole life. They say, you want to play with a new pet? Just meet me in the Wet Willie's car wash at 7 a.m. Text me when you get there. Then the drug cop gets in the car with the unsuspecting perv while the bubbles are all over the car and records the guy talking about how he wants to take the pet, i.e. child, home for a few hours and have his way with him. The cop then plays the perv's words back to him and watches him turn 10 shades of pale before making him an offer that sounds pretty nice. We will not go to a grand jury with this recording. We will pay you $2,500 a month in tax-free cash under the table. We will tell the Ocean View Playhouse to let you in any time you want to visit the pets, and we will make sure you are safe from any other legal troubles. For as long as you work for us, all you have to do is shut down any cases we ask you to. Promise not mess with any pets except the ones we provide for you, and promise to do any other things we need you to keep us in a position where we can continue making enough money to afford to pay you and keep enough power to be able to make sure you don't end up having to try to explain your taste. Help us help you, the drug cops say. But they warn the perv that if you ever cross their new master, they will out them and send them to prison for life. Then if the perv they just rolled is a prosecutor, which is very common, they tell them their first task is to put a criminal investigation on this guy over here who is on the judicial council and get rid of him. So the judicial council guy resigns. Then they go to their other pocket perv and tell him to get on the judicial council. In Alaska, the governor can't just appoint whoever they want to be a state judge. They can only appoint who are nominated to them by the judicial council. The judicial council is made up of 2 lawyers and 1 non-lawyer. So with 3 people, you can control all judgeships in Alaska. With the judicial council stacked with perv gatekeepers, the drug cops go out and get whatever child molester they have ready to work and tell them to apply for a judgeship. Now you have the judicial council giving only an assortment of pocket pervs to the governor to nominate. You can literally get a judge whose only qualification is that they like molesting kids. The drug cops are sly and aggressive soldiers of fortune, and they have done a very good job of loading the system with the lame, beat down perv losers they can control. And on top of getting to play with the pets, the lames get a vicarious power trip out of feeling like they are part of the gang with the alpha male drug cops. This is how it works in real life. It's heartbreaking and infuriating at the same time, but it's a reality we must face. This is how Alaska has been run since the late 1970s. Just think how easy it is to spread your network after you get a few key posts filled with reliable pervs. It just gets easier and easier as they go, until they have the whole state under their total control. That's where it was when I was there. It got so bad that everyone knew it and there was nothing anyone could do, because no matter Where you took a complaint, there was someone there to shut you down and protect the child molesters and drug-dealing cops who put the whole system together to protect the narco industry. I knew of a police chief who crossed the Pervs. They sodomized and murdered his son. He was not so bold after that. His daughter did some honest things and got run off as well. A friend of mine had her son murdered by one of the drug cops' distributors. The whole thing was on camera, but the investigation went nowhere because the murderer was part of the drug cop Perv alliance. Finally, after enough public blowback, some state prosecutors and police are trying to go after some of these people, but Bottini has shut it all down. Back when I was out, nobody would dare speak a word about it. I was the only one, and it cost me my life. I explained all this to explain how this narco-perv society is holding the whole state government and all the people hostage. People are rightfully scared to support me openly. But I do get support. How do you think I raised all that money? I have tons of support, just below the surface. Maria Rinsel was one of my Alaskan supporters, but then they got to her. At least that's what it looks like happened. She was doing real good. She was helping me in amazing ways. Then she got arrested. She wouldn't elaborate on it, and after that arrest, she got real sketchy. I think that they flipped her when they arrested her. That's why they let her go so fast. So she could work for them. She started lying to me about what she was doing. She started redacting the names of informants out of my public letters behind my back. She started blocking me from my own funds. Then when I called her out on it, she cut off all my communication and disappeared with my defense fund. The confirmation that she was working for the dark side came when I tried to replace her, and the counterterrorism unit told me I had to leave Maria in charge of my defense fund, and that if I tried to put anyone else in charge, I would get major sanctions and they would cut off all my communication. I took my losses, of course. So this is the context in which you ask where all my supporters are. They are in an underground war for the country, their livelihood, and their life. They haven't forgotten me. They are just pinned down by evil right now. If you have propaganda to keep people confused and secret police to keep people scared, you can control the masses cheap and easy. But the danger is it only takes one fearless guy who sees through the racket to cause major problems. If the Narco-Perv Alliance thinks there is even a chance that you may be that kind of fearless leader, they will preemptively ruin you, just to err on the side of caution. As one drug cop told me in an 8-hour interrogation, my family would do what I asked them to do. If that was to give public statements, they'd do it. But what I want them to do is let me fight this battle myself while they take care of the kids I left behind. They are the only ones who can salvage my children's childhood. So that's what I want them to do for now. Schaeffer Cox. All right, I'm going to call this Narco Pervs. What was the title? Narco Pervs, Where Are Schaeffer Supporters? And put it up on a Year of Jubilee if you want to download it. The last line of peaceful defense between a tyrannical government and the defendant is jury nullification. Educate yourself about jury nullification at fija.org. Thank you for your time.